Okay, so let's go on. Before we watch the video on language development among very young children, I want to remind you that just this morning I found some resources. Actually, I uploaded a PowerPoint slide into our Blackboard site under course resources. So while I was reading about the dual language learners, we talked about it last week as well. We had some question. Well, you haven't asked yet, but I was thinking maybe you will say about the code switching or language mixing as a momentary or periodical phenomena among young bilingual learners. And so with that said, what I uploaded here in week 2 resources, so far there is only one thing: bilingual development in early childhood. This is a webinar presentation done by a professor from Ohio State University, learning in 2 languages in early childhood, what every early childhood professional needs to know. So it's a long slide, but it has very interesting true or false questions at the first before each section. Then it briefly goes over the characteristics of the typical development of children. Well, it also talked about atypical development a little bit in terms of language development. Let me see whether I can go to page 36, which is closely tied to our chapter discussion on page 129. Come on. Okay. All right. So question 5, language mixing in young bilinguals is a sign that they cannot tell apart their 2 languages and are probably confused. Do you think that's true or false? Well, I'm sorry, for our friends on Zoom, probably you cannot see the slide, right? Let me share screen with you. I'm sorry. Okay, all right, there you go.
I think this is false.
This is false. Another A for you, Cindy.
Thank you, I need them.
Apples for teachers, as always. Yeah. Okay, code switch, code mixing. The use of words or elements of words from 2 or more languages. This is a rough definition to it. The child is confused. Well, no, like what you said. I believe most of you believe Cindy is right. Normal. So it's a, how to put it, developmental characteristic of bilingual children or even multilingual children. It's not a sign of confusion or inability to separate languages. So anyway, long story short, well, the 2 languages, the 2 linguistic systems, or even more than 2, will separate from one another clearly when children develop. Yeah. Of course, I mean, when children pick up language and how efficiently and easily they acquire different languages, there are age differences for that to happen. I think maybe we talked about that last week. Yeah. So simply speaking, the younger the better. The younger you are, a person is, the younger for him or her to pick up a language in a natural way, yeah, without much intentional efforts needed. Okay, so anyway, I looked through this set of PowerPoint slides, and I think it's very informative in these aspects about language acquisition among bilingual developers or children. So you may just download it and watch it and yeah, use it as a reference or even tools for your later presentations or work, yeah, feel free to do that because it's already publicly shared online. I believe we can do that. All right. So any other input about this? Okay. So in general, again, there are benefits to children for them to develop bilingually or multilingually. All right. Here we go. Finally, what? Yes. Okay. So we can watch the video. We'll see. The entire video is close to 40 minutes, but so now it's maybe we'll watch half of it. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. So feel free to adjust the volume on your own devices.
Human communication is the foundation for relationships. It is our primary connection with each other. From birth, hearing is critical for children to learn, absorb, and react to the world around them. The first 5 years of life are the building blocks to a lifetime of communication. Language is the bridge to almost every aspect of a child's life. Realize first, each child is different and will learn and develop language at a different pace. However, there are certain milestones the majority of children reach at certain ages. Highlights and descriptions of the different milestones are detailed in separate chapters of this DVD. An unidentified hearing loss can cause a delay in speech and language development, so the earlier hearing loss is identified and intervention begun, the better for a child's development. Parents and other caregivers are natural language teachers. Common everyday interaction between children and those around them is the best way to boost and enhance language development. If your child is learning more than one language, you should communicate with your child in the language that is most comfortable for you.
Eat cookies. Eat cookies. Cookies and tea.
It's important we understand the difference between speech and language. Speech is the forming of specific sounds to create words. Language is the way we combine words into sentences to communicate with and understand others. Language is how we as humans socialize and learn. If you suspect a child is having a speech, language, or hearing problem, don't hesitate to seek help. Certified speech-language pathologists and audiologists assess and treat speech-language and hearing problems. There is much more information on speech-language pathologists and audiologists in a separate chapter on this DVD. Believing your child will grow out of it can hinder future growth in communication, reading, writing, learning, and in social relationships. The first 5 years is a vital
Did you mute it?
I can't hear it either.
Yeah, I can't hear it.
Well, could you hear the voice now?
Certified professionals who can help. The professionals who
Oh, okay. Sorry.
diagnose and treat communication problems are speech language pathologists and audiologists. Ensure you work with properly educated and qualified professionals. All certified professionals hold postgraduate degrees, log hundreds of clinical hours, and have passed a national exam. Speech language pathologists work with individuals with speech and language difficulties. They are knowledgeable about speech and language development and ways to help. Speech language pathologists evaluate speech and language skills by testing and observing children at play and when interacting with family and others. If problems exist, speech language pathologists work with families to set goals and develop treatment plans for improving communication skills. Audiologists evaluate and treat hearing loss and guide families on treatment options to improve communication. An unidentified hearing loss can have serious effects on a child's development. Fortunately, most newborns have their hearing screened before they leave the hospital. Children's hearing should be tested frequently during the early years. These years are critical to development. Hearing loss can occur for a number of reasons. Even a minimal hearing loss, or hearing loss in one ear, can have an impact on communication abilities. When consulting a certified professional, parents should provide specific examples if their child is not responding to sound or is having difficulty speaking or understanding. The ultimate goal is to help your child develop good communication skills. Contact the American Speech Language Hearing Association, ASHA, to locate a certified speech language pathologist or audiologist. Information and referrals can be found through ASHA's website, asha.org, or by calling 800-638-8255. Taking action is the most important part of treating any problem with your child's speech, language, and hearing development. Early intervention can make a world of positive difference. The first 3 months of life. You are learning about your child, and your child is learning about the world. Infants come into the world ready to learn and are able to notice different speech sounds. Research has found that some infants may recognize their mother's voice at just 3 days old.
What do you think? You tell me. Oh, yeah. You tell me.
At the same time, you've probably recognized the cries and burps infants immediately make. Before you and your baby left the hospital, your baby most likely had a hearing screening. If a hearing loss was suspected, it is important that you follow up on recommendations and advice you received for further testing and care. Even mild or one-sided hearing loss can lead to speech, language, or educational problems later in childhood. Recent research shows that children diagnosed and treated for hearing loss before 6 months old develop language comparable to their peers. If you suspect a problem with your newborn, talk about it with your pediatrician and contact an audiologist directly.
I got your hand.
From birth, infants are ready to listen to the fine differences in your speech. Infants normally can't recognize everything they hear, but they react to sound. Notice how infants will quiet down or smile when spoken to. Loud and sudden noises will also startle infants. Infants can communicate. They just need to learn speech and language skills.
What did you tell me? Oh, don't fall backwards. Don't fall back. Yeah.
The calm cooing and gooing are indications of pleasure. It may not be talking, but an infant's different needs often result in different cries.
Can't wait to have conversations with your child. Don't wait. When your baby makes a sound, say it right back. Clap baby's hands to simple songs and sing and dance together. Talking to your newborn is the best tool to early development of speech and language skills. It's important for babies to become tuned in to the sound of speech. Respond to all the sounds your infant makes. Imitate them. Pause and give your infant the opportunity to make sound. These conversations show newborns that you're interested in what they say. From the very beginning, babies try to imitate the sounds they hear us make. Describe what you're doing during regular routines like changing or feeding. Infants may not understand all words, but sounds associated with actions will increase understanding of speech and language and the world around them.
As babies grow physically, they're also developing communication skills. By the time your child reaches 6 months, you may be amazed at their development. Basic sounds are now commonplace. By this time, your infant's babbling is more speech-like. As babies become more aware of their surroundings, they react more. Babies will move their eyes or even their heads toward sounds. At times, toys that make the most interesting noise get most of a baby's attention. Babies can be especially attentive to music and specific sounds, maybe even a specific voice. If your child responds to some sounds but not others, or responds only to loud sounds, or if you suspect a hearing problem, make sure to discuss this with your pediatrician and an audiologist. Some forms of hearing loss are correctable with the right treatment. Even a mild or one-sided hearing loss can have a negative effect on speech and language development. With better mouth and tongue control, the babbling sounds infants make will include more speech-like sounds. Babies will vocalize excitement and displeasure.
And now.
Babies will practice their speech sounds when playing or left alone. Babies learning any language may begin to form specific consonant sounds, such as P, B, and M. These sounds may not be words, but babies at this age are learning to make and control speech.
You can use your child's ability to focus and respond to help language development. Joint attention is when you both are focused on the same object or person. Talk with your infant about these objects or persons. Your comments will have more meaning than if you talk about something else. Continue to react and imitate sounds your child makes. Make it a game. Babies love repetition. Sing favorite songs again and again. When playing a sound game with your baby, vary the pitch and the tone in your voice. This is interesting to the baby and will encourage the baby to copy you. Sway or move to the rhythm of your voice or song with your baby in your lap. Encourage a natural interaction. You're introducing your babies to conversation, helping them to develop the speech and language skills they'll use for the rest of their lives.
Even without any words, your baby is already well on the way to establishing speech and language. Before 6 months, crying and babbling are the forms of communication. Babies are letting you know their needs. Now, a baby's communication is intentional as they try to get and keep your attention. They will respond to changes in the tone of your voice and will pay attention to music and sounds. Babies understand many of the words we use, although they're unable to say them. They begin to respond to simple requests, such as, "Come here," or "Want more?" By the time they approach their first birthday, you may hear those first few words. Make sure you're not watching the calendar. Speech and language development does not follow a strict schedule. Each child is different and will learn at a separate pace. You may find that speech and language development for children learning more than one language takes a little longer. This is because there's more to learn and process. However, if you have concerns about your child's speech and language development, consult a certified speech-language pathologist or audiologist. As children grow into the second 6 months of life, they enjoy sounds more because they associate sounds with objects. Sounds they recognize will capture their attention. When spoken to, babies begin to listen attentively. They can recognize common words. Babies will also be able to comprehend and respond to simple requests. Babies are now more able to enjoy simple books and games. Their babbling becomes more advanced, using multiple sounds. I know. Your baby may be able to imitate different sounds and tones. Non-crying sounds may be used to gain attention. They may develop a vocabulary of 1 or 2 sound words or pretend words. As they approach their first birthday, babies have formed the building blocks for their first words. They're now using words intentionally for the first time. It's never too early to begin reading to your child. Even before they complete their first year, they can focus more and enjoy stories. They begin to take interest in books with pictures of familiar people and objects.
Interaction is the basis of communication. So even when your child isn't using the right sounds or words, you keep the conversation going. Use the correct words in your speech. They'll usually catch on quickly. By now, your baby is familiar with favorite songs and sound games. He or she may try to tell you which song to sing or game to play. Books with familiar animal pictures are interesting to your baby, especially if, together, you imitate the sounds that animals make. Children focus on what's right in front of them. Your descriptions of regular routines and common objects will help form those first few magical words and phrases.
At the time children are starting to walk, they're also taking their first steps in speech and language development. This is an exciting period as children express themselves using more and more words and word combinations.
Here. Right here? Me butt. Can you show me? Me butt. the mailbox.
Sometime after your child's first birthday, the first few words begin to appear. Whether they're learning one or more languages, children have already established basic communication patterns. Children understand more words than they can speak, but they're making requests and responding to simple commands.
What do you want? You want to have it?
There's so much speech and language development between ages 1 and 2. Don't be alarmed if every milestone isn't met as quickly as you'd like, or as quickly as other children. Children center their attention on their immediate environment, so they're more apt to understand and use words and phrases associated with current activities. Children will be able to follow more simple commands. They will understand more questions.
Can you say, Daddy?
When asked, children can identify body parts or pictures in books.
Where's your nose? Where's your nose? Where's your teeth? Teeth. Yes.
You'll even notice them paying more attention to stories.
Put that on. Put that on. Yeah.
The words are coming fast and furious. Between their first and second birthday, a child has two main uses for their ever-growing vocabulary: to identify objects and to request action or information. They will use more than one word at a time. Even actual sentences or questions may begin to appear.
Are you hungry, Kyle? I'm hungry. You are?
A child will use words that are easy to say and that have meaning for them. Don't be surprised if your child appears to talk to him or herself. Many times, a child will say words just for practice and play. It may only last a few minutes a day, but reading to your child helps develop knowledge of objects and words and is an enjoyable interaction with you. The short reading periods go a long way in building communication skills and serve as the foundation for later reading and writing skills. The ability to respond increases. They will point to pictures when asked.
That's right. What does the dog
When asked, children can imitate words or sounds.
What does the doggy say? When you read, it's not necessary to quiz your child on each picture. Children may only want to label a few pictures after you've named them. When you talk with your child, don't expect every word to be perfect. With children, their focus is on their own behavior. So is their communication. Make sure you give them a chance to respond. When playing, your focus should be on your child's interest. The child-centered play will most likely result in use of words. It's what the child wants to talk about. Using child-directed speech, the sing-songy, simple, animated patterns you naturally use around children is a very good thing to do. It encourages responsiveness and gives children the confidence to be active participants in conversation. Your child may now begin to sing favorite songs with you and ask to play patty cake and other sound games. So much of the speech and language development your child goes through during his or her second year of life is inspired by and is the result of the interaction your child has with you.
Get ready. Your toddler will make tremendous strides before turning 3. During the time between the second and third birthdays, you will see many changes in speech and language skills. By now, you've heard the first.
Sorry to interrupt. We watched From Birth to Two. So today, do you want to watch on, or we can stop here and move on to the third task? And we may watch this later. Okay, let's do it. All right, I got you. All right. Well, don't feel shy. It's our classroom. We can decide. I know usually it's not very advisable to stop a video halfway, but well, we finished From Birth to Two, yeah, which is so tailored to us. And you know, if we have time, we can finish the whole DVD, which still have about 20 minutes. We should be good too. So we'll move on to the third item, which is to work on the assignment, say the lesson plan 1. Yeah. Well, I learned from last week that I don't want to make the classroom a very intense environment or at all. So we would rather have some time to talk to each other, to look at each other's work if you want. Of course, I can look at yours, your problems or your progress, and we can work on this a little bit. And then I'll just let you go. Questions? Surprise? Okay.
When I was working on my lesson plan, one of the sections talked about, and I wasn't familiar with it, but I kind of related it to an IEP goal. When it said objective, it said A, B, C, D format. Could you maybe go over that format and maybe give an example of what that might look like at this age level? Because to me, it was like, you know, with IEP goals, we do in 36 instructional weeks, when presented with blah, 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 so-and-so will. Is it kind of similar to that?
That's an excellent question. And let me first, I definitely can answer that question. So, you know, let me check again on our rubric. It includes ABCD format, right?
Yeah, it was under objective, and it wanted the objective in ABCD format. I'm just not familiar with that.
Yes, okay. Well, simply speaking, it is there, right? So A refers to, well, we have quite a few experts here who have had to experience the instructional planning. I hope you enjoyed it to more extent, I mean, than not. Well, the A refers to, anybody can tell us here? Audience, yes. And a B refers to behavior. And C is condition, yes. And D is the degree. Yeah, degree. Yeah.
I wrote mine as regular objectives because that's what we do in lesson planning. So
So my lesson was over colors. It was brown bear, what do you see? And it was over colors. So how would that, is it like one sentence, or is it, do you break each component down?
So in one sentence, for example, usually most objective statement is one sentence. Mostly it's just in one sentence. And in this sentence, I wasn't finished in that, but I paused myself. So A, actually the audience is always the learner or the students.
Okay.
It's always the students. And B is behavior, which means what they will be able to do. Yeah, through your teaching or through your learning activity. B is behavior. So C is the condition. Condition refers to the context or things you provided. So anything you provided through your instruction or any materials you provided that will aid or made possible the learning to occur.
Okay.
So that's the condition. D is within a parenthesis. That means for some behavior, well, it's harder for us to apply or measure it with a D. Well, D, well, again, means degree, or another word would be accuracy. For example, we want to make the give a for example, they might be higher than preschool children target behavior. So the students, well, the students given a demonstration from the teacher about what? Balancing or walking on the balancing beam. The students will be able to walk on the balance beam without falling more than twice out of 10 times. Okay. I mean, this is
so it sounds like it is a lot like IEP goals. Okay.
I think
that makes sense.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So again, what is very important too about the behavior is that we want to use the verbs that are measurable and observable. With that said, those action verbs, those verbs that is very vague to observe and to measure are not really good choices. I'll give you resources, don't worry, I'm getting there. So, for example, understand or know are very hard to measure. How could you see? How could you measure the understanding? How could you tell they know something? So those are very not words, actually not many words we often encounter are not good ones. For mainly just like know, understand, even learn. But in our standards, oftentimes we see learn there, learn, the actual words there. But in our ABCD format, these three words are not recommended. We want to use those verbs that can be seen, the behavior can be seen and measured. Again, with measurement mentioned, the degree sometimes doesn't have to be a quantitative statement that involves numbers, right? Sometimes we may just use an adverb to even properly or even appropriately, correctly. Sometimes, you know, if they know how to do it, they can do it correctly. There is no skill, I mean, from this end to that end, right? Yeah, so we just use an adverb. Yeah. Let me give you, I'll upload these resources like I do have it in my other classes. Hold on, I always did that. Okay, so we are on Blackboard. So however deep we want to go into lesson planning, I guess you don't want to go into too deep in lesson planning with this course. But I'm going to give you the resources. So you cannot access this, but let me at least to show you right now, and then I'll upload it very, very soon. This is my instructional planning class. Quite some of you here, Sarah, Betsy, Emily, Robert, all went through it. So under unit plan resources, we have the, how to write objectives following the ABCD model. This is a PowerPoint slides I use often to talk about that. And there are also examples there. And you can find the actual verbs from different domains. I don't know how familiar we are with Bloom's taxonomy. Probably most of you are. The three domains, right? For young children, we often talk about affective domain other than before the others. Yeah, affective domain, cognitive domain, which is most often talked about in educational setting, although we cannot ignore all the other two. So affective and psychomotor skills, psychomotor domain, which deal with physical movement or skills. And why don't we just look at that for a second? So this is a PowerPoint slide. You can see, even if you Google verbs, Bloom's taxonomy verbs, so you can find different versions of that. Most versions carry good verb choices. For example, this is psychomotor taxonomy or domain. The pyramid, of course, starts from the bottom, with the bottom being the lowest level in each domain or area. Then the second slide would show you the verbs and example behavior. If you could, you will just want to draw from these verbs to use in your objective statement. Yeah. Does it sound challenging? I think these resources should be helpful to you. But, well, yeah, don't struggle too much.
I wrote them how we do, like, at school. So, like, the student will listen to a story with a predictable pattern.
Oh.
The student will participate in singing a fun bear song. The students will be able to match colored animals to the correct colored circle. Student will be able to sort bears by color with assistance. So are those okay, or do I need
That
to
sounds,
change
I
them?
didn't catch the very beginning because I was changing the screen. I'm sorry. I forgot to share screen with our friends there. I'm sorry to you. And
Okay.
Kelly, yeah. But I did catch the verbs used. The verbs, there are all good ones.
Okay.
Why? Because they can be seen, they can be measured by the teacher.
Right, and then some of what the measurable part I put in the summative assessment. So.
That's a good practice. That's, yeah, for those easily measurable verbs, it's handier for you to include them in a summative assessment.
Observation.
Yes, and of course these are the key objectives. Serves the main goal of your lesson. I believe all our friends can see on Zoom can see the PowerPoint slides now. So this is one of them. The one that is about Bloom's taxonomy, which includes 3 domains, and also what is more helpful is that it includes the recommended verbs there. Yeah, it responds slowly. Sometimes it appears that I overdid it. For example, from the lower level, now it's from 1 to 5, higher and higher. But this is in, let's look at a cognitive. Most of you probably are more familiar with the cognitive domain. So yeah, remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, creating, these are all gerunds, but we may also say the lowest one is knowledge, and the second one is understanding or comprehension, and then application, analysis, evaluation, or comparison sometimes, and also creation or synthesis, to use a different set of verbs. And long story short, okay, so here we have more key verbs for cognitive domain. Instead of use understanding, if we look at number 2, we try to avoid vague action verbs like understand, know, learn. What should we use? We try to use these verbs like classify, identify. Is identify here? Identify is in the first line. Okay. Compare, describe, explain, give examples of, predict, summarize, tell in your own words. Although here compare may appear here, compare may also appear in a higher level, which is, oh yes, it does, say in analyzing, right? Yeah, it depends on your goals, yeah, the target behavior according to the curriculum or standard. Yeah. So this is one set of slides on Blackboard, and I will upload this, if not now, well, just later this afternoon, to our course resources folder. And the other one is about how to write ABCD format objectives. I don't want to show it right now because I talked about that already. And only in that slide you have more detailed examples and analysis. What is A, B, C, and D in 3 different domains? Anything is not making good sense, or is everything making sense to you? Okay, so that's ABCD format. By the way, the condition oftentimes starts with a given a context, or given something done in the class. Students will be able to. Usually we use will be able to instead of just will. If you just prefer to use will, it won't hurt you too much. Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, the standard language, again, like I said, the standard language, they probably didn't consider 100% ABCD format, but they are still our standards. Any other question about the rubric?
I had a question about where it says lesson sequence. It said include Bloom's CFU. Could be, I don't know what that is again. I'm looking at the table format.
The table, yeah, it's also included in the rubric. Bloom's CFUs, yeah. So CFU, what anybody can answer what CFU is? Let me check, test you.
Check for understanding.
Yes, right. So CFU is check for understanding. We talked about Bloom's taxonomy, which includes 3 domains or 3 areas. So you want the CFU to be checking any one of those areas. Yeah. It's all matched or consistent. So in your objectives, you have such and such, which can be easily categorized or classified into a domain or a couple of them. And then through your instruction or description of your lesson plan, you would also include the way to assess students' understanding or progress in these areas, right? Yeah, they should all be aligned. Usually there's there's a big guiding goal for the whole lesson, even for a whole unit, right? Sometimes it's a big lesson, which has to be covered on through a few periods, or a few lessons, or a few days. And then you have the specific objectives, which will guide each specific lessons. Towards the end, and even during the middle, we do formative assessment, right? Yeah, either the formative or summative, more towards the end. It should be examining how well we have achieved the objectives. Yeah, so all 3 things, at least, they should be aligned and consistent. We don't want to assess something that has not been taught. Then we say, oh, our lesson is not successful. The students are not there. Well, you haven't taught it. Yeah. So in a table format, the key vocabulary, and also to answer your question, George, still, Bloom's taxonomy, circle highest level used. I think it's simple. You just highlight one of these words. And specifically, you can notice this is just in which domain? The cognitive one. Yeah, not affective, which deals with emotional feelings, attitudes, or psychomotor skill, right? Yeah, it's just a cognitive. It encourages us or expects us to identify for yourself as a reflective practitioner. Yeah, what level do you want to bring your students to? Identify that. And it's highest, not all, but highest level used. Do you want more elaboration on that? Okay. Yeah, good question so far. Any other thoughts or questions?
I'm pretty sure I did mine's wrong, so can I upload another one?
How wrong would you be?
I don't know.
I'm curious. Well, of course you can upload another one. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I saw your submission was very early. Yeah, yours is very early, but I didn't break it.
It's because I thought I had read it was supposed to be submitted before class. So that's why I had that.
That's not a bad thing, though. Yeah, theoretically, it should be due midnight today.
Okay.
And maybe I said it before already. I mean, we can allow certain flexibility, you know, yeah, as long as it's not way too late. If you need 1 day or even more, 2 more days to work on it, yeah, that's okay. But if it is too late, I mean, it will just get added up with other upcoming assignments, which is not reasonable or good to you, right? Yeah. So, yeah.
You have us submitting each lesson plan individually, and then you have us doing the final draft, which is all 3 of them is into one document. So that's the exact same thing, just individually, and then all as one.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Only with the such a scenario, if your say lesson 1 and lesson 2, the draft got a very low score. Well, you want to make revisions. So in the final draft, it should be the revised version.
Okay.
Yeah. Specifically speaking, for each lesson plan, the full score is 30 points. My standard is that if you got 24 or more, you don't have to change it. Yeah, you should be fine. If it is lower than 20, it's almost you must change it. You know, yeah. 60% is not high enough for this course. Yeah.
So will you have this one graded then before the next one's due, so we know?
When is I should, yeah. When is the next one due?
It is due next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. So this one is due today.
And then the following Tuesday, so the next.
So 3 weeks, right? One due each week.
Yes.
Yeah, I did consider this, so I spread out the assignment. Yes, yeah, I will. Mhm.
Dr. Wynn,
Yes.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I did the field experience in the fall and spring of this year, and there was an assignment that had 3 lesson plans to be designed and taught, and then reflection papers. Is this the same assignment or separate?
I would say separate, but if you give them to me, I don't know whether you have used it before.
Dr. Baquette just said to make sure I submit them into the portfolio for my work, but they were already graded by the outreach instructor.
For Field 1 class, right?
Yes, the preschool.
Field 1. Well, so you have already submitted those to the folder, Dropbox folder for Field 1.
I haven't submitted anything yet through Blackboard.
I know.
But on those, while I was taking the field work and before I was able to get the grade, I had to complete those projects.
Well, okay, let me say this. Let me stop sharing so I can see all of you very well. It's okay from me for you to use the lesson plans that you have submitted for a different course.
Okay.
I didn't teach you in a different course, so yeah, I'll take them. They are lesson plans. As you just want to make sure, of course, for this course we have these rubrics, we have the expectations. Just to use your own judgment, if they fit in, if necessary, you may want to revise a little bit, just to tailor them to the expectations, the rubric here, and then you can submit them. Yeah.
So should the lesson plans be from birth to age 3, the infant and toddler section?
Yes.
Okay.
For us, yes. Did it say that? I don't think we have such an requirement, though. Yeah, it would be for early childhood. It clearly says for ECU, so that should be for our age level, our students' age level. Yeah.
But for the infant toddler right now, for this section.
What do you mean, this section?
This month it's infant toddler, and then in July it's preschool. Am I correct in that?
Yes, yeah. Well, us is from 0 to 2. Yes, yes, right. You're right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So how about your lessons? Where do they fit?
Well, I did a separate one for today, and I did the 0 to 2. The lesson plans that I did during the field experience were in the preschool section. So I can just do additional ones. That's not a problem.
I don't quite like the idea of having you do extra work. Let me think there for just a second. Could you make revisions?
Well, she'll have to have different ones for the portfolio, won't she? Because you have to have
Yes,
3
yes,
for
right.
the preschool, and you have to have 3 for this class. So she'll need 6 total.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. It sounds good to you, Cindy?
It sounds fine. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, any question, any thoughts? I'm running through the different items here to see where possibly you may have some confusion. Well, for assessment, formative and summative. Formative assessment should happen in every class. Summative doesn't have to. It depends, right? Yeah. I mean, that's the way I see it. For some lessons, you don't have to have a summative assessment. It just doesn't apply. Yeah. Especially for very young children, very early childhood classrooms. It's hard for you to have a more systematic evaluation tool or paper to assess anything. And then of course, you don't let them write a paper or take a test or something. Right? Yeah. The whole lesson is just it's maybe more sophisticated than play, but it's still more similar than play than to a very content-focused class. So that's quite understandable. I wish that's at least a little bit helpful. For differentiation. In planning for differentiation, well, it really needs to be special consideration or extra consideration for children with special needs, including children with gifts or gifted children. Yeah. You wouldn't say, okay, I have the PowerPoint slides for this lesson, and that's a differentiation for visual learners, for children with a visual impairment. So, yeah, I have large fonts on, or large fonts. It's a little bit consideration for their needs. But if you just have, I have visuals, that's it. It may not be enough. It needs to be some special adaptation, more things you do to differentiate for their needs. For the kinds of special needs, this is very detailed. For the kinds of special needs, it's not specified in the table or in the rubric. So use your imagination, or you can easily use the situation in your field placement classroom if you're not working in a childcare setting. So just to say, choose one kind or two, and that's it. You don't have to include all the special needs that you can think of and differentiate for them. So, is it clear to you? Just include one or two kinds and then make adaptations for them. That's okay. That's good. I know you will do this or you have already done this. Really look at the rubric, especially the three-pointer category accomplished. Of course, we should look at that, right? While developing our product. Just try to fulfill the requirement there. It's with the updating from Dr. Bequet and earlier updates from all of us, we worked on this together. I would say still it is a very rigorous rubric and it's very detailed. It has many expectations, but you try to meet each one of them. Well, if you have met most of them, you should be good. Yeah, that should make your lesson plan pretty good already. And again, if you use the why do we have the table format here? I talked with Dr. Bequet about this. The purpose is to make it easier for us to work on. You don't have to write 10,000 words in a single lesson plan, all right? And you don't have to script every word you're going to say in this lesson. List the key steps. Anyway, I always say this. Make it detailed and specific and self-explanatory enough so that one day, if you cannot go to the class and teach there for some reason, your substituting teacher will be able to teach it right away by looking at your lesson plan. So think about that, how detailed or specific it should be. All right. Any other questions or thoughts? Yeah, feel free to do anything. I mean, well, the silence makes me feel that you are just waiting for something from me.
On the assignment coming up for next week, also the checklist of safety and play guidelines. I went ahead and did mine, and I used 3 columns because it says we're supposed to actually assess an early childhood classroom. So is that correct then, that I did that?
3 columns of
Looks like I listed the guideline, and then I put a column for if I observed it, a column if I did not observe it, and then a column if I was concerned. And then I used that to write my areas of strengths, weaknesses, and then identifying recommendations. I just put in paragraph form at the bottom of the chart. Is that okay to do?
Oh, sounds good to me for now.
Yeah. I have another idea. I can show it to you if you'd rather see it.
Yeah,
that
sure.
might help.
Not a problem.
Let me bring it up. Because the other one, the sample that we were shown, just had a check mark by each. You know, it was just a list, and it didn't have everything. So if this makes more sense. Like I listed the area, and then I put 3 check boxes if I observed it at the center or not. So for like the greeting area, diapering, toileting area, sleeping area, I just listed. And then at the very bottom, it said to type strengths, weaknesses, and then recommendations.
Very good.
All right. Okay. Okay. It was actually an eye-opener when I went back to actually use it, you know, at the center to see if she had everything or not. So
the guidelines or rubric helps you to see many things that we haven't usually noticed, right?
yeah, and I had my husband read the list, and it really shocked me. So I was like, okay, I know I have everything, and he read it, and he's like, what about food allergies? I was like, oh, good point, because I have to have those in my classroom, but I didn't even think about that for this. So, yeah.
That's how checklist helps.
I think being in a center might be a little different than like with the daycare, you know, because there's the different age groups are all together versus, you know, like yours is all in infant, you know, a toddler room, whereas mine has all the ages in it. So it was good.
Yeah, anything else? Any particular struggle? Well, to you guys, I want to say that it doesn't have to be as so scripted like the one we did last semester.
It was much easier.
Much easier.
Oh, yeah.
What was
First, the content.
We took the other class with
The instructional planning.
For
Oh.
middle school, for
Yeah.
elementary, and
Yeah.
we had to write.
I require them to write very, very detailed, very.
I was going to say, as a teacher right now, we are.
Yeah, of course, I mean, in practice, you don't have to write lesson plans in that rigor. Yeah, but we just wanted you to be able to do that. Yeah. Every now and then, especially when you have, like what I said, you foresee that you have either family needs or you'll be on a trip, you cannot teach. Your lesson plan probably want to be or need to be more detailed so that other people can cover your job nicely. Otherwise, if it's for yourself, you can just include the skeleton, and that should work for you.
So many of our curriculums now are scripted,
Yes.
which I don't like. But then you have to copy that and highlight what they're supposed to say.
Mhm.
So yeah, tricky.
Well, anyway, it's good that all of you can access the, and all of you, just want to make sure I remember you right. All of you are using both Newman email and your regular email accounts for course announcements, right? That's a relief. Okay, good. All right. I don't want anyone to feel you're missed. All right. Okay. I didn't want to play some video of my child, my bigger one, but it will take me some time for me to bring it up on YouTube. Yeah, my bigger one. She turned 7 today. Yeah.
Dr. Hop's daughter turned 5 yesterday.
Yesterday? Oh.
Yeah.
I do have a 5-year-old too, yeah.
I thought yesterday it was his daughter's birthday.
Yeah, I think it's his only daughter so far. Only child so far, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Apple in the eye. Wonderful, so close. I didn't remember that though. 6/18, June the 18th. That is the birthday of my mother-in-law.
Oh.
June 18th. So how about this? I think we have a good discussion voicing out your questions about the lesson planning. Anyway, anytime, just to contact me, email me, or even call me with any thoughts, any need about this assignment and others. All right. If I can answer you right there, of course I'll do. For most of the questions, I believe I can. If not, I'll let you know that I'll need to study about that and then get feedback to you. All right. We together will work this out because the course is about you and me. All right. Yeah, our ECU team, ECU program, so we can make things work just among us. It's not a problem. So it's already 11 past 3. So thanks to your very good participation today. And if you want to, you can continue to work here. I can talk with you about any problem or question. If not, feel free to go or to log off. Yep. All right.
Before I go, I wanted to just make sure I was getting it right for the activity thing. I use this table. I don't know if you can see it. The table format.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I saw it.
So that's the one.
Yeah,
Right.
what's your question? You can use that. You can use the table format for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, that's a simple question. All right, bye. See you later.